And so, silently falling into yourself, falling into this moment, into yourself, being yourself, here now. Nothing to do. Just an incredible relaxation, so fully into the presence of now, that there is nothing else but now. No one here now, just here now, the presence of being, being itself, and the absence of me, the absence of that sense of being a mind body that is separate from the whole, dissolves immediately into this moment, here now, the being, just being. Falling into yourself. Free falling in the emptiness of this moment. You are infinite, unbounded, eternal perfection. You are not someone who is perfect. You are perfect, perfect being, perfection itself. You are not someone who is imperfect. You are the perfect being. It is to let go of all expectations of the me to achieve anything, to understand or attain anything. Let go of all expectations that come from a mental, conceptual belief that thinks it knows what this is all about. Let go of the external journeying and seeking, and turn right now into the true invitation that is satsang. The invitation is to take the outstretched hand of your very own self and fall into yourself, fall into being yourself right now in this moment. Let go of the idea of an external, worldly, seeking journey and just be here. Fall into yourself, just being here. Not knowing what that means, not being able to make sense, falling into the felt sense of just being, the simple sense of your own existence. Feel it now, because to feel it now is to be it now. Do not look with your mind, because you will not find. You will only find more concepts. Feel yourself being here now. Let go of the tension of seeking and expecting to find something. Let go of all expectation and just be here. Be so fully here that any sense of individuality dissolves into the vast, open field of being. And you do not have to do anything. It is the miraculous happening, the dissolution of all edges, and the clarity of seeing that naturally dawns all by itself. Hey presto, here you are, infinite, eternal being, being yourself. It's immediate, it's now, it's only ever now. It is not an experience that you once had back in the 70s when things were free and easy. No, it's here now, right here now. It has never been freer and never been easier to be yourself, right here now. Give up looking, give up knowing what you think you are looking for. Give up the idea of gaining, of ambition, of spiritual ambition that wants something for the me. Give it all up. Give it all up to God. Give it up to the self. Let all of that be the offering into the holy fire of this moment, into the holy burning fire of truth. Underneath the play of the world, underneath the moving, changing elements, there is a vast open field that is freedom. And this field of freedom is the freedom that you are. It is the surrender of the held sense of being identified at the mind body, the relaxation of the contraction into being the vast open field of freedom itself, eternally free, infinitely free, utter openness, clarity, purity, and a depth of knowing that is simplicity itself, because the knowing knows nothing. It knows nothing. True knowing knows nothing. It only knows itself. And this knowing is the most intoxicating, wildly beautiful silence. The wonder of true silence, landing in this moment so fully that you know without question that this knowing only knows itself. This is the only thing that can be confirmed. The knowing of the self, the being itself, being here now, being so fully here now that there are no threads reaching out, grasping out into the external, that all threads are turned towards the being. When all threads are turned towards the being, there is an opening. There is an opening to the openness. And opening to the openness, the discovery is here. The discovery of the truth of who you are. Everything that seems important collapses. All the patterns of consciousness that are striving and wanting, all the discordant patterns that are false understanding, all the patterns that are conditioned and habitual, they collapse. They momentarily collapse into the timeless now, into the timelessness that is the true nature. Just being, just being. So the felt sense of just being, of your own existence, it is not a singular existence, as in an individual existence. It is the opening to the one existence, the existence itself, the existence that is, the being that is, the one being that is, the light that is ever shining, the effulgent light of being, of the self, shining in and of itself, shining because there is nothing in the way of the brilliance, the radiance of the self that is shining, shining, for no other reason than its own knowing is shining, shining its glory, shining its freedom. And you are that glory, that freedom, that being that just is. You are that self, that one. It is to come to the felt sense and feel the truth of this. Receive the pointing so immediately that you recognize that there is no one pointing to something. There is no one pointing something out to someone. That the pointing itself is the jubilant celebration that explodes in recognition of your very own nature. The pointing itself is the finding. The pointing itself is the explosion of what it is pointing to. This is the glory. This is the immediacy, the incredible immediacy of recognition. Recognition of your very own heart. Recognition of your very own heart that is infinite, eternal, has never been bound, is not closed ever, is not touched ever by the play of emotions and moods, not touched ever by memory and attachment to stories of a past. The infinite heart is ever free, ever jubilant, ever joyful. It is happiness itself, always shining, always beaming its brilliance. And this is the truth of who you are. Everything is pointing in order to clear the cobwebs of this moment, clear away the maya, the fog, and see the grace that is here. Let the attention focus with the grace that is here and not with the habitual, distracting focus on things, objects, and experience. Let the direct experience of just being be where the focus falls, and know yourself. Fall into yourself. Fall into yourself, into being, into love, into the one heart that just is. Here now you are. Grace is. Just is. What is yourself. There is only now. There is nothing other than this that is. The isness of this moment is it. It is about being so fully, so completely, so perfectly here now that you meet this moment as your own wholeness, your own perfection, your own completion, right? It completes you. It completes you because it is the part that is always overlooked and always feels to be missing. The completion, the wholeness, the perfection is to meet the immediacy of the immaculate being that you are. Splendid, splendid being that you are. Look no further. Want nothing more. Look no further, because you can feel the essence of truth, of glory, of delight, of the divine, of the self here now, that you know without question. There is nowhere else to look but this moment. And so the compelling magnetic pull is to fall so fully into this moment, to let go of all of those ideas of that moment and be here now in this moment, so fully here in this moment that there is nothing else here but being this moment so fully. And this is the meeting where the you and the me and the them and the us and the her and the him, it all dissolves. It all dissolves into the neutrality, the wholeness, the perfection, the unconditioned flow of life, living itself, dancing with itself, the glory that is perfect bliss, perfect illumination. And there is the flavor, the essence of this here now. So it is just to taste the essence, and in the tasting of the essence, allow faith, true faith, that perfect bliss, perfect illumination, perfect knowing of the self is here. Perfection, wholeness is here. Taste the sip of your being and allow faith to carry you deeper into the flow of grace. The flow of grace, that is the aliveness in your knowing, the subtle knowing, the quality of aliveness. The aliveness itself of the knowing is what carries the ever deepening, we could say, trajectory into the ever finer and finer clarity, the more and more refined possibility, the highest possibility. The highest possibility is the lowest possible position that the ego could imagine. The highest possibility of your knowing is such a vast, infinite knowing, but it is the lowest possibility that the ego could imagine, because it is utter humility. It is utter surrender. It is the letting go of everything and being so fully here now without knowing, without understanding. It takes courage. It takes humility. It takes a quality of relaxation into a not understanding, a not knowing, and jumping into a subtle quality of just being and staying so fully present, being so available, so you can be carried, you can be taken out of your individual meanness into the flow of grace that recognizes the true presence of being. The I am presence, the simplicity of the I am presence, just to feel I am, I am, I am, I. And even if this feels to start with like it is attached to the mind body, even if it feels sticky, do not let a single thought attach it. Do not let a single thought create identification. Stay with the openness of I am, I am, I am, I. Here now, here now, here now. Just being, just being, just being. And in this resting, this stickiness, the stickiness will fall away, because the stickiness is just a discordant energetic pattern. It's not truth. Your being has never been attached to anything. The being has no stickiness. The being is utterly free. The being is utterly free of objects and experience. The being is not attached. It is also not in aversion or against anything. The being is utterly free. So when you rest in the presence, the presence, the presence, the stickiness of the mind, it naturally falls away. Here, now, here, now. Just being, just being, just being. The direct experience is a dawning. There's no one doing it. You cannot make it happen. You just suddenly recognize, but not the me that recognizes. The being itself recognizes, the true you recognizes, oh, I am not a singular point. I am not identified or stuck at the point of the body. I am not bound by the thoughts. I am not a story. I am not a form. I am not a name. I am not a person. I am the boundless being. I am the boundless field. I am infinite. I am vast beyond imagining. I am freedom itself. I am the aware being. It might not say all these words, let's be honest, because the being is wordless. The being is a wordless being. The being is silence, silence itself, just being, just being, just being itself, the self, being itself, the self. It is myself, but it is not the myself attached to the mind body with a name and a story, with a past, an imagined past. It is the self aware of only itself. Myself, my true self, is self-aware being, the self being itself, celebrating itself, feeling itself. The feeling of the self is to feel the blissful emptiness, the equanimity, the openness, the boundless nature of being. It is the innermost being itself that whispers the silent truth. And it comes as recognition. It comes as a dawning. It comes as an aha, the great aha. The great aha that blows the mind to smithereens. Because the dawning is clarity. It is the celebration, and it's here now. Do not try to hang on to it, because as soon as you try to grasp it, it becomes sticky, or it becomes heavy, and the true nature is not heavy or burdened in any way. So as these words come, the pointing is not to something. The pointing is the resonance. It's the resonance that rises up from the silence. It moves in a worldly way as words, but the words are irrelevant. It's the resonance. The resonance of silence is the transmission that the words carry, and the immediacy of receiving this is where there is a recognition that what is being pointed to, you recognize it, not because you understand, you recognize it because it's who you are. You recognize it, and in the recognition, there's an immediate joining, an immediate meeting in the one heart, in the one self, in the bliss of being. The you and the me, it dissolves. It dissolves into the oneness of being. Can still feel a quality, a flavor of the you and the me, but you know without question that where we are meeting is deeper, is more intimate, is more profound. It is the highest possibility of relationship. It's the highest possibility of relationship because it is the true meeting. It's the oneness. It's where there are no conditions. There is love so pure. There is a celebratory happiness so clear. And there is a peacefulness of knowing. This is a quality of companionship. The true friend, it's a quality of companionship where the seeming two are meeting in the oneness and reveling in the sacred garden of the self, the sacred garden that is the paradise, the illuminated paradise of being. So, the being is here. You are the being. You are the immaculate, perfect wholeness of being, pure, clear, never touched or tainted in any way by the play of the world. You have no past. You have no future. You are the timeless being, here now. Can feel your timeless nature. Your timeless nature is the eternal, birthless, deathless being, divine being, being itself. There is a resonance, an aliveness of the being itself, the knowing that is pure. Pure knowing is self-knowledge. It's the only knowledge that is needed. The knowledge of the self, knowing itself. And the knowing is alive. And where the knowing is alive, it is the aliveness that is the field of intelligence. The field of intelligence, it is everything. It is nothing and it is everything. All wisdom is here. It is a field of divine memory, the smriti. It's not psychological memory, it's divine memory. Everything, the knowledge of everything is here, but it is accessed through the knowing of the self and the aliveness of intelligence. We could say it's the Upanishadic field. Everything is here. The Ved, it's the living Veda. The Ved or the Veda. What is that? What is that? It's the aliveness, the intelligence, the liveliness. It's the reverberations of everything that knows itself, the knowing itself at every point of infinity, reverberating simultaneously, It's the silence, so wildly alive. The silence, so wildly alive, pulsing, pulsing with its own fullness. Cannot understand it, cannot take it home with you. You can only be home in it. The self that you are, is home. It is the journey home. It is the seeker and the seeking, the journey home and being home. It's all of it. Everything is included. Everything, everything is included. Being yourself, being yourself here now. The recognition of the heart, the recognition of the heart of the self, the perfect illumination, perfect bliss, the blissful emptiness, equanimity of being the self. It is always here. It is always who you are, always. The wholeness that is whole is always, always who you are. The knowing of this is grace. Where it feels like there is some fog rolling in, this is the grace that is in concealment, the Maya, right? So if there is something funky playing, it is not to it is not to feel like the self is not here, the being is not here. It is just to recognize that underneath whatever is playing on the surface, the wholeness, the truth is always whole, is always true, is always here now. So we could say that if there's something playing on the surface, if there's a sense of not being able to let go and shake off that fogginess, that density, it is just to come to the felt sense of being, and even a small sip of your true essence. It's just to recognize that the essence of being is not touched by whatever is playing. Even if this does not completely feel like it frees everything and the fog lifts and the great glory is not shining, even if it feels like that, the great glory is shining. The great glory is shining anyway, right? It's just like the sun is always shining, even on the day where the clouds are so dense and gray and the sky seems so low and heavy and burdensome. The sun is still shining. You know that, right? You know that even on that day, the sun is still shining. It's like that. It's like that when Maya is here, when the jungle, the foggy jungle, is just something, a weather pattern playing through, and you cannot make it shift. You cannot make it shift when it isn't ready to shift, but you can come to the essence of being, and it might not feel like the deepest taste of the being, the knowing of yourself that you have ever known. There can be some dullness and a feeling of a lack of clarity, right? Because the mind compares. It compares. It can remember. It can remember something more radiant and more gorgeous. But it's just to know that the cycle of transformation is playing perfectly. There's only one thing ever happening in this situation. Whatever is playing on the surface that feels foggy, that feels like a weather pattern, that feels like a heavy gray, cloudy sky, all that is happening is that there is a graced offering coming forward, a graced offering to receive the energetic signature of something that is moving through, some karmic pattern, some kind of distortion in consciousness that plays as conditioning or habit. There's some kind of tangle with that. There's some kind of jostling with the discordant that's happening. And while there is this jostling with the discordant, while that is playing out, things will feel a little off and a little foggy. But do not let that allow faith to be lost. Faith is knowing that the sun is always shining. Faith is knowing that the being is always being. And you can taste a quality of that. Always in the now, a quality of that is available. It is possible that so quickly a transformation can happen. Suddenly, the clouds can part, the sky can lift, and the brilliant beaming sun can shine its glory in an instant. So do not create stories of timelines, because when you meet the timeless being here now, and you truly feel, is the being touched by whatever is playing? And you confirm in your direct experience, no, the being is not touched. The being is okay. The being is content. The being is here now. The being is shining. The being is free. The being is aware of that which is playing. Oh, what was that was playing? Right? It starts to soften, because when there's a meeting of the discordant pattern, just as energy, just as consciousness, just as felt sensation, and not identifying with the story, recognizing the being. The important part is you have to feel the felt sense of just the aliveness in the nervous system, the old stress without a story, and you have to recognize the untouched being, because that which is moving as discordant, it will only surrender itself into wholeness. It will not let go into anything less than perfection. So you have to touch perfection. You have to create that connection to source, to God, to love, to the unconditioned. You have to create the connection to perfection in order for the discordant to see the light, we could say, at the end of the tunnel. And when the discordant sees the light at the end of the tunnel, by feeling that quality of perfection, the tunnel disappears and the light is all that remains. The light is all that has ever been here. The tunnel was just a little weather pattern moving through. So all that is ever happening is this cycle of transformation. And you are always somewhere in the cycle of transformation. The cycle of transformation is a cycle of refinement. It's a cycle of everything unifying itself. And once it has unified itself, it becomes, the sense of unifying is becoming everything, becoming one with everything. And once it has unified itself, it starts to devour itself. It starts to eat its creation. It starts to eat everything that it has created in order to leave no trace of anything but itself. It's all that is ever happening. The cycle of being, the cycle of becoming, of unifying, becoming one with that, the cycle of becoming one with that emotion, that flower, that tree, that monkey, that beetle, right? That moody feeling, that funky emotion, becoming one with that, becoming one with everything, becoming one with the one that you felt discord in relationship with, becoming one with that, refining your own consciousness refining itself, becoming one with it. And once there is a becoming one with it, it starts to devour itself. It starts to eat everything so that it will leave no trace. This is all that is ever happening. And when there is no longer a trace, all it finds is itself. The self only finds itself. But the great glory is that in this cycle, there is a moment, and that moment is the falling into the timelessness. It's the now. The moment in the cycle of that clarity, where that opening is, where that clarity is, that moment, that dawning after a deep surrender, that moment, we could say, it's the here now, only ever the here now. But on the surface, it can be a stretch of time within the play where the glory seems to be shining. It could be a moment, a day, a couple of days of remaining, of resting, of recognizing that the clarity is here more often, right? It lasts longer as the cycle cycles. Those moments of clarity that follow a surrender, they last longer. And then something will come in, something will come on the screen, something will play. So it's only ever to know all that is ever happening is this cycle of refinement, this cycle of transformation. It's your own consciousness that's creating everything in the cycle on the surface of life in order to refine itself, to become one with itself, and to utterly devour itself. It's like the spider creating a web and then winding it all back into itself. Leaves no trace. It leaves no trace. What remains? What remains is just the self, here now. The seer, the seen, and the seeing dissolve into what is just this moment, here now. So the grace of the cycling is there are tastes of the glory. There are deeper and deeper tastes of the glory. And whenever there is a taste, it is to drink in the taste of the glory of the being. Even if it's a small sip, or if it's a great big juicy goblet, and you can drink it all down. It's just to revel in whatever grace is offering, because every sip confirms the truth of who you are. It confirms the knowing, the pure knowing, that is the knowing of the self knowing itself. So everything that is happening on the surface of life that feels like my life, my worldview, it is your unique view, your unique window into your own consciousness. It is grace that we have this window, the seeing of this unique view can only be seen by virtue of the light that you are, the light of awareness. So resting as the awareness that is aware of your unique view, you can receive your unique view as grace, instead of receiving the unique view as my life that I have to win, I have to be successful at. That's the illusion. That's the play of illusion. That's when there's identification at the singular point. When there's the receiving of grace and the recognition of being, your unique view is known to be this incredible, profound possibility to see your own consciousness in picture. More than in picture, it's multi-sensory, right? That's why it feels so real, even though that is the unreal and the being is reality. But it's in order that consciousness can have such a full experience of itself. It's reveling itself in every moment. Every experience is divine to consciousness. But your unique view is so that you can see your conditioning, your blind spots, your unconscious material. Where there is just flow in life, it's just flow. That's gorgeous. That's celebration. What we're really speaking of are the places where conditioning is playing, where the identification is playing. We're not speaking of the mind as an enemy, the functional mind, the conscious practical mind. It's all part of the functioning of consciousness. We're speaking of the mind that is moving in ways that protect and defend the ego patterns that are created out of conditioning, the discordant, and that your unique view offers this possibility to see all of your patterns playing out in front of you. But of course, this takes incredible courage and a willingness to have such honesty within your own inner world, to really see how does that character play out. See what your unique view is offering. And when you see what your unique view is offering, you are just the light of awareness that is shining upon it all. You are not judging or having opinion. You are not trying to change anything even. You are just shining the light upon with a clarity of seeing that is so open. And that in itself is what transforms. It's what brings surrender. The question is in the cycle is, how long will it take? How long will it take to surrender to the divine, right? So a trigger comes in, there's resistance, there's reaction, there's getting in a tangle. The question is, how long will it take to surrender, to see that resistance is essentially futile, but resistance is protection playing. The habit is to defend, to try to make the me right. But you can see that where there is awareness shining upon the situation, it offers the possibility to see, where is defense here? If I'm feeling resistance, if I'm feeling triggered, then where am I creating this? Where am I defending? Where am I wanting to blame and find another wrong? How deeply can I take this in without projecting it outwards, right? And that in itself is a very profound process of refinement, to really be able to take it all the way in, to refine it all the way into the being. it will take a few shots. It will take a few shots. Grace will have to throw a few punches until you can really refine that. But this is the glory, is that we get given another possibility. Oh, and another possibility. And here it comes again. Because the grace is this patience, this compassionate patience that is always allowing. It's allowing of the play of time. But the question is, how long does it take to receive the grace of divine will and to see that somehow this is for me, this is not against me. I do not need to protect or defend here, just to be so open to this moment, so fully that I can receive all of this moment just as it is. The openness to be humbled all the way into being, again and again and again. To receive your unique view as grace, to know that every single character on your stage in your unique view is playing a part of your own consciousness for you. It's not to say that we don't interact within that realm. Of course we do. And we have to use our voices. It's part of the healing process, is to find your voice, to speak what feels true and not be pushed down, right? There's so many subtleties to this process that we can't really cover in this moment, but they're all here. All of the subtleties are here. It's about feeling the depth of what is true movement that comes from your wholeness, where you're not editing and you're not being squashed by your conditioning, where you're not editing, you're not filtering, you're not protecting yourself, you're not behaving in a way that you think you should or you have to, you're not behaving in a way that you think will make you more lovable or more acceptable. We could say, in the moment, are you willing to lose everything but yourself? Because only when you are willing to lose everything to the truth, for God, only when you are willing to lose everything, to rest in truth, will that wholeness fully open. Will that, we could say, will those patterns that seem to have power over you dissolve into the true power of the self? Only when you know that there's nothing in the world that you can lose that isn't worth losing, right? Let's say that again. There's nothing in the world that you fear losing that is a true loss. When you know yourself, it is to rest in the autonomy and the power of knowing yourself and allowing true movement to come from here, regardless of what that means on the surface of life. When you know the power of yourself, you have a courage and a confidence to take risks in the play that the me wouldn't take. And you risk putting yourself into situations that the me, the one that wants to protect, could find fearful. But you are fearless in true nature because you know that the risk of losing yourself is not worth surrendering your power to the world, to a play that is not real. So there's a lot of subtleties being spoken here. And the reason that they're being spoken is because this field of the consciousness here has got so many subtleties in it. So what is being spoken is your consciousness, this consciousness here. It's wanting to try to bring forward as many subtleties of the field so that what is being spoken makes sense at every point, right? So you receive it if you're supposed to receive it. Trust that. But we're touching into these very profound layers, right? The layer of what's the reaction when something comes in your unique view, and all of the subtleties of that, of what it's like to truly receive. And then we're touching into what does it mean to truly move. It's not about being a doormat. It's not about losing the power of the self ever, right? Because there can be spiritual kind of habits, really, spiritual habits that speak of acceptance and being allowing, that can allow behaviors to come towards you that you habitually allow and accept because you feel like that's kindness and that's truth and it's just happening. But until you feel what you're feeling in that situation, you recognize the being, you touch into the being that is not touched by whatever you're feeling, whatever charge or trigger is in the nervous system, and you allow true movement, whatever that is, to come from your being. Sometimes it will be to stay completely quiet, and sometimes it will be to move in the world in certain ways in order to untangle old conditioning and see through karmic patterns in service. Seeing through the karmic patterns is in service to the whole. So we're touching into many different subtleties within the field. So it is just to feel the resonance. Feel the resonance. Feel where you feel like these words are speaking what I need to hear. Because where you feel that, that is where the pointing lands here now. And it just explodes, right? There's nothing more that needs to happen. The pointing it just explodes in your consciousness, and then everything just happens all by itself. You may not see it quite yet, but the dawning will come. Of that you can be sure. So the beauty is that what happens in this field is deep transformation. It happens in the field as we are speaking this, as this is coming forward. We're clearing the field. And this is true healing. This is true healing because it's healing through transformation, the discordant patterns that can pull the attention. So the gorgeousness is now, here we are. We are deeper. We are deeper in the being. We are deeper in the consciousness, the truth, because we have stirred up and we have cleared the field of certain patterns, and there are others that are just in the process of untangling and refining and clearing. But wherever there is a landing of a pointing and a recognition, wherever you receive the grace, that is your service that contributes to this whole field. And then we all receive the grace of everyone's recognition. This is the magic happening. This is how we are in service to the whole in our own process. It's never personal. Seems personal, and there can seem like personal triggers, but there's always a segue to the collective. There's always a segue where we're serving the whole. Essentially always in service to the divine as a flow of divine consciousness. Wherever we're saying yes to doing this work, we are in this service. Of course, the greatest service is just to say yes to being yourself. That's the simplicity. The truest, highest, most profound service is to be yourself, to know yourself, and to live this truth right on the surface of life. And that is what the process, the cycle of transformation is offering. It's offering for the recognition that happens in the infinite field that seems very expanded. Everything is conspiring to bring this vastness right to the surface of life, so that the divine is living through every form, that every form is a vessel for this transformation, by doing what feels like the personal work that's never personal. It's always for the whole. This is all that is ever happening. If there was one thing to keep hold of, it's to know that there's only one thing ever happening, this cycle. And it's just to recognize, where are you in the cycle right now? Are you in the openness and the glory, the celebration? Are you in the timeless being, where there's only now the being, the beauty that you are? Are you in the moments where something is coming in as a trigger? Is there resistance, protection, challenge? Is there fog? Are you in concealment? Are you in a process where things are breaking down and you are aware, but it hasn't cleared yet? Are you in the moment of surrender where there are tears and emotions and energies moving? Are you on your knees? Is your forehead to the ground? Where are you in the process? Are you knowing yourself? Are you in the peace? Are you in the gorgeous, delicious revelation after the moment of surrender, where all you want is to be humbled again, and yet you're resting in the glory, and you are so open that you do not care what comes in, because you know that everything is in service, and all that is longed for is to be humbled into the divine, all the way, right? So where are you in the cycle? There's only one thing happening, and it's to hold this not as a grasping, but as a timeless mantra that brings you to the here now. Do not leave the awareness of being within this cycle, because if you leave the awareness, then you stay more in the tangle and you enter the play of time in a different way, where the tangle and the knots feel more challenging. It's okay. This will happen. Here you can notice, what story are you telling yourself? How deep are you in your story? How sorry are you feeling for yourself? How far are you into a cycle of victimization? Just feeling all of this and noticing all of this, it brings spaciousness to it. Oh, I'm totally being a victim. I'm totally feeling sorry for myself. Boo-hoo, right? You recognize it. You recognize it. That's where I am at the moment. I'm in the illusory pain where the cycle of my mind is making me feel worse. I'm feeling sorry for myself. Okay, I see it. I see it. The moment of seeing, you are the awareness. You are the aware being, and you are free. You are free. As soon as you recognize that you are the aware being in this moment, only this moment, as soon as that is seen, you are free. The transformation is right here. The immediacy of the clouds parting and the beaming brilliance of your true nature can shine as the heart. This is where you are the light. You are the light of awareness. And as the light of awareness, you are the light of the world. You are here living that truth right on the surface of life, courageously, profoundly. And here you will live without question in complete devotion, in complete prostration to yourself, reveling in the blissful emptiness, the equanimity, recognizing all of the subtleties of the intelligence of how consciousness plays. You start to become so aware of the subtleties of this cycle that you cannot be fooled, that you're always aware wherever you are in the cycle. You're always aware and you never leave yourself. And as this cycle of refinement refines and refines, you find the oneness with all becomes more alive and shiny, more compelling. And as this part of the cycle is playing, it starts then to complete and devour certain threads. So it devours old relationships, it devours old belief mechanisms, it devours old habits, and suddenly things that kept you bound for so long are just not even relevant. They're not here anymore. They've been devoured. They're beyond the oneness. They've gone. They don't exist anymore, right? This is what is happening. This is the gorgeousness of everything surrendering into God. And where do you find yourself? You find yourself in God, resting in and as the divine, in God knowing, in clarity of what God is. God is the holiness, the sacredness of being the light of this moment, the wholeness, the immaculate perfection, the humility of receiving your own perfection is the shining glory of God, not where there is someone saying, I am God. It is where the words come, there is only God. It's all that's here. There is only the self. It's all that's here. Because this cycle has devoured everything. And all that remains is the self, knowing itself. And that self opens into the clear seeing of its own holiness, its own blissful divinity, all by itself, all by itself. The knowing deepens into divine knowing, into God knowing. And as this cycle cycles around, you will have tastes and flavors of all of this is possible, because the totality is here. It's not a linear process of climbing. It's this cycle it's not only cycling in this direction, it's cycling in every direction simultaneously. And as the being, we could say this cycle is the opening to being, the opening to the absolute. And this cycle is the opening of the heart. And the opening of the absolute of consciousness and the opening of the heart, they keep cycling. Whoops, we're getting a little carried away here. They keep cycling in these huge, huge, huge gyroscopic flows of grace. So it's not about saying, I'm here, tick the box. Now I've climbed another level and now I'm here. You can taste all of this right now, right? Everything that's being spoken, you can recognize some value of it. And it's only ever to taste the value that you are tasting, because as you taste it, you're drinking the nectar of your own recognition. You're drinking the nectar of your own knowing. And this nectar is what carries you deeper. This is turning to the divine. This resting in your own knowing is the grace that satsang offers. It's the grace that is satsang. It is that outstretched hand that invites you to drink the nectar of your own knowing in order to fall deeper and deeper and deeper in until everything has been devoured and all that remains is the self, shining, 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 the great glory, the jubilant celebration, the splendid beauty that you are. And then, right here on the surface of life, you feel that joy, the exuberant felicity of being yourself, the blissful equanimity. It's causeless, so the joy, the bliss, the happiness, the awe, the wonder, it's not for a reason. And you start to notice, you wake up happy for no reason. When nothing makes you happy, right? When nothing makes you happy. This is true happiness. You're happy for no reason. You're just content. You're pure peace. It is your nature. You're not someone that's happy. It doesn't mean that you don't have moments of being happy about this or that. Of course, let's celebrate the small victories, right? But let's really celebrate the true victory. The true victory is the victory of knowing your true nature, the victory of knowing yourself, the victory of recognizing the freedom that you are, right? We celebrate all victories, but the causeless happiness is the victory of knowing the true nature, the being that you are, the self, the shining glory that just is. So drink in yourself, drink in the beauty that you are right now. This moment you are. There is no other moment. Come to such a deep recognition of this, that it's true. Yes, the mind pieces together and holds psychological memory. So it pieces together, we could say, stills, stills of stillness. It pieces them together and creates a movie, which is the psychological memory, which is seen as the past, right? In a sense, this is not a problem unless we are attached to it. It's not that when you are in freedom that you don't have memories of the life come in. They come in the now, but they're only ever now, right? They're at once they're a memory of the life, but they're only now. There's no attachment. It's not being used as a defense mechanism that's creating resistance. This is the kind of psychological attachment to past that we want to have awareness of and see through. Okay? Right? Hopefully you can recognize that, the difference. Feel the stillness of this still. This is a still, like taking an image. This still. This now is always a still. It's the stillness of being. You are the stillness, the movement. You are the moment. And what is moving is just passing through. You are not that which is just passing through. You are the stillness of the moment. And when you do not identify with what is passing through, You remain as the beaming, shining glory of the sun, regardless of what the weather pattern is. You are the still of this moment, and you are ever open to whatever is here in this moment. So there are things passing through, but you are only ever concerned with this still. You only ever take a shot, this, and you open to the absolute fullness of this now. You do not fragment the moment. You see where protection creates fragmentation, separation, the illusion of separation, differentiation, comparison, right? All of this. But you get so familiar with watching the character that you come to know all the subtle nuances, and you just shine the light of awareness upon it all. And this in itself is enough to free everything. When you know who you are, then you are the only tool in the box that you need. You are every tool in the box, right? You do not need any other tools or techniques. When you know yourself, you are the shining light of awareness that shines its truth upon everything and holds, not through a grasping, but through a profundity of knowing, of being. You hold the truth, ever present here now, ever present here now. We could say that true darshan is to see yourself and then to hold the gaze, the luminous gaze of your shining self in an endless darshan. Gaze into yourself, gaze into the eye of the divine. Do not leave. Rest in darshan with your divine self. Feel the silence. It's the same. The darshan is to feel the profundity of the silent stop. To fall into yourself, into this moment so fully that you can feel only yourself just being. There's nothing else. Just being yourself here now. The glory, the beauty, the immaculate perfection that you are. The human character will always be flawed, but your wholeness, perfection, is not. You are not trying to be a perfect human. You are coming to know the perfection that you are, that allows everything to be as it is, without judgment, without condition. And this is what allows, we could say, the flaws of our humanity to be seen in the light of awareness, to be seen and held in a field of unconditional love, in order to unravel all of those discordant patterns into the purity and wholeness of being. Mm. 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 The victory of this moment is to be yourself, to be the victory, the true celebration of just being yourself. Empty, blissful being, equanimity, shining, shining in the simple knowing that this is who you are. Mm. Mm.